Don't have no brakes. My daughter called me the other day, and luckily I think she was in a parking lot, but she didn't have brakes. So I went over to check the vehicle out and took it down to the mechanics. I was able to drive it, but just had to push real hard on the brake pedal. Had a whooshing sound underneath the dash there. I think it was a power brake booster is what we was thinking. So I took it down to mechanics, had him look at it a couple days, and he tried to order a brake booster for this thing. It's a 2007 Lincoln Navigator. Pretty much the same thing as a Ford Expedition. But he tried to get the brake booster and couldn't find it anywhere. Ford don't make it anymore. Can't even get a rebuilt one from any auto parts store. We tried some junkyards. Local junkyard said they could order it, but it was going to be pretty expensive, about $150, and it was a used one. So I was able to look online. He gave me some numbers to look up. So he ended up needing the vehicle out of there because the water was coming up on his shop. So I went ahead and drove it back home. Just had to be careful with it. If you pushed real hard, you had brakes. But so looked on eBay, found some on there. Ended up ordering one. It was about $80 some. The one I ordered, it had about 80,000 miles on it, so it's kind of a little bit lower than the rest of them. So hopefully we have a decent luck with it. But I went ahead and changed it myself, and I'll explain some of that as we go. I've already done it, but I wanted to at least get a little bit of video, show what I did. The funny part about ordering this thing is it was down in Texas. I ordered it March 9th, and it ended up delivering March 17th, but it had to make a tour of the United States on the way here. It went from El Paso, Texas, to Midland, Texas, to Haslett, Texas, to Mesquite, Texas, to Nashville, Tennessee, to Sharonville, Ohio, to New Scranton, Pennsylvania, and then finally here. So it made a little bit of a tour through UPS. So this is the old part. You can see here, your brake pedal attaches to this part, and when you push on your brake pedal, it pushes this in, and somehow this thing has some vacuum. Got a vacuum spot here with this hose. Obviously this is the old one, and this thing pushes on your master cylinder, which somehow in turn pushes the fluid out to your brake pads. This just helps you stop, gives you a little more power to push the brake pedal. It's got an electronic connection right here. So it has a gasket that goes on there. It actually goes on the master cylinder, but it ends up going right there. So let's get in the vehicle here. I'll release the hood. Should be a little lever down here somewhere that so this lever right here, if you push it over this way, you can see how it'll release the hood, and you're able to lift it up. This has got little shocks on it, so it holds it up. You don't have a prop on these. And this is the brake booster here, and then you got your master cylinder here with the cylinder with the brake fluid that pushes down to your brake pads, to your calipers, and pushes your brake pads against your rotor. So what I ended up having to do is take this stuff out of the way. So I unhook this connection here. There's a little red thing underneath there that you kind of pull out to release this. Sometimes they're a pain. Also, this screw right here, if you can see it, undid this clamp, which allowed me to pull this apart. And then you got 3 clamps right here that release, and that's where your air filter is, inside there. And then you got 2 bolts here. Take them out, and then take this hose clamp off. Took it, just moved the hose clamp, and you squeeze these 2 together with a pair of pliers, and then just kind of wiggle it down to here, and then you can pull this hose clamp off. And there was antifreeze come out of this, so you had to kind of hold it up. I kind of propped it up out of the way so I wouldn't spill an antifreeze. That allowed me to grab this, all this here, and kind of, there is a hose at the bottom of this thing that was fighting me. The radiator hose goes down towards the engine. So, but I was able to kind of move it up out of the way to allow me some more room back here. On this, I had to undo this plug, and then there's 2 bolts that hold this master cylinder to the power booster. There's a nut right here. I don't know if you can see down in there. And there's also a nut on that side, if you can see it there. You can see down below. And then I took that vacuum line off, and that allowed me to pull there's a little bit of flex in these brake lines on that master cylinder, so I was able to pull it out of the way, and I kind of propped it up with a ratchet strap, just kind of putting it up there and kind of holding it up out of the way. You just don't want to kink in brake lines, because if you do, you got into a lot more mess than you want to deal with, because you have to bleed the brakes and all that. And then the power booster, if you come in here, this is the hard part. Trying to get up underneath here. If you see, this is the back side of it. Hopefully you can see them 4 bolts that hold it on. But the first obstacle is to get this. See if I can get there's a white pin right here, and they had just kind of a couple little tabs on the back side, but I had to take this piece out first. There's a screw right there and a screw up on top, and that allowed me to kind of pull this out of the way, and then I was able to pry on that bolt, and you had to move the brake pedal to get that peg out of there. And I'll try to show a picture of that peg when I upload this. But once you pulled that out, it released this rod from the brake pedal arm. But then I took the 4 bolts out from the firewall there, and then I was able to pull that thing out. And then obviously putting it back in, just a reverse. When I got done, the brake light stayed on, so I got to looking at YouTube and found out somebody said that there's a switch. This is your brake light switch. Hopefully you can see that right there. But if you turn that clockwise, it will pull out. And I'll show you here in a second. This is your brake light switch. So when you turn this clockwise, there's two little ears right here. It allows you to pull it out. Apparently this thing sets itself, and you have to reset these things after you put the plunger and stuff in the booster, because the brake pedal may be at a different spot than it was originally. To reset these things, you're supposed to be able to push that little plunger in and release it real quick, and that's supposed to pop it out, in a sense, kind of like a reset. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, I don't know, but it wasn't releasing enough. I actually went and just bought a new one and put it in there. It was actually sticking out a good bit more than this one was. Put it in there, held the pedal back, you pushed the pedal down, put it in there, turned it counterclockwise, released the pedal, and it supposedly set it where it needed to go, but it worked. So that's all that mattered to me. How it works, I couldn't tell you. But hooked up the electronic part of it, the wires, and that was it as far as fixing it. You got to be a contortionist to get up underneath there, and that's why I've got back problems. But we got her car back running, and so she's able to take her kitties around the places she needs to go. So stay tuned for other videos, and hopefully I'll get better as I go. Thanks for watching. This is just some of the things I get into. Get into a little bit of everything. Jack of all trades, master of none. But this is living life with a bearded papaw.